There we go. Now, hopefully, this will actually work. What's up, pals? Alchemy here, and welcome to the first chapter review of Kaiju number 8. The chapter starts off with a giant hulking kaiju towering over what assumes to be Tokyo, Japan. The land of kaiju, the nation where the highest monster emergency rates in the world. This is going to be a little hard. My computer screen is like all the way over there. If you see me looking this way, it is because I want to show my hair off. No. It's because that's where my computer screen is. I would show it, but I got everything perfect on my little ring light and my setup right here. So please try and understand. We see the kaiju bleeding from its eye when all of a sudden the kaiju falls, literally having a 2-page spreadsheet of just its open body spread across multiple block streets. I guess you could say that the kaiju is at the very least street level. From there, we see a woman towering over it, looking dead into its lifeless eye. All right. Then we see a man looking at her through binoculars. This is our main character. His name is Kafka. We see Kafka with a group of other people known as the cleanup crew. They're part of a kaiju destroying team that just cleans up after the actual, I guess you could call them kaiju killers. Kafka tries to cut through the bones. Naturally, they're too tough to go through. The bones are too tough, so he has to call a chainsaw over. When that chainsaw is used, they explode all over the person who uses them, burning through their, what I assume is a hazmat suit, and essentially having to take them away on a stretcher. After his friend is taken away on the stretcher, we see the amount of just destruction that just the body alone of the kaiju actually takes up, and they want Kafka and his little group of maybe 7 or 8 people to try and clean it all up before noon. That's insane. After the destruction of the kaiju, we see that Kafka's boss is actually going to put him on intestine duty. Intestine being his least favorite because they get everywhere and you can't get the smell out of your nose for months. That's about, yeah, sounds about right. So he gets his mask up and all of the guts are just censored because Japan, I guess. So they censor out some weird stuff. After a long day's work, Kafka goes home and he lays in his bed and he says he can still smell it. Then he's watching TV and his friend comes on and he's envious of her because we find out that the two have a past together. Keep in mind, this is the same girl who wanted to also be alongside Kafka and kill kaiju because they destroyed their home when they were younger. We see a little flashback to that of his friend crying and she says, "Let's destroy all of the kaiju together." Whereas Kafka kind of has a flashback and he's like, how did I end up with the shitty job? So Kafka does what any normal human being, adult male, unpleasant with his life would do, and drinks himself to sleep. The next day, he goes into work absolutely hungover, and we get introduced to another character, Ichikawa. And let me tell you, when I saw Ichikawa, I thought nothing of it. I thought he was just going to be like another little Sasuke clone, just absolutely edgy beyond belief. Because that's the vibe he gives off at first glance. You know, I thought him to not be very assuming. I thought him to be very, how you say, dark and brooding for no reason. But Kafka's buddy tells Ichikawa and Kafka that they will be working together. And oddly enough, Ichikawa can sense that Kafka is unhappy with his life, much like I was at my previous job. But he says, "You gave up. Can I ask why?" And Kafka tries to play it off as a joke. He says, "Well, I gave it my all, but I guess you could say the competition is a little stiff." Everyone's got a limit, you know? And I kind of crashed right into mine. He says, "You'll get what I mean when you get a little older." So Ichikawa replies, very seriously, very dark, very brooding, but with a polite tinge to it. And that's something you don't really see nowadays in, like, anime characters in general. He says, "I'll never understand. Sir." He says, "Sir." Surprisingly enough. Surprisingly enough. I'm gonna just shut up now. He says, "I'm not the type to give up. For as long as I've lived, I will never understand, sir." He says, "Not that I want to understand either. I'm going to get suited up." His buddy's in the background like, "I thought you two had hit it off. What the heck happened?" Kafka is notably upset and says, "That's so unfair. No matter how I respond, I'll come out looking pathetic." And he's got a point, you know, like, give or take, it is kind of pathetic sounding. Like, he just gave a reason why he gave up. Then he says, "Is giving up really that bad?" Everybody in the video, I want to ask you, is giving up really that bad? What are your thoughts on it? All right, let's get to it. I'm reading it word for word now, which isn't something that a lot of people really want to see, but at parts where they introduce new characters like that, I think that's what I'll do. So, in the next page, we see everybody looking badass in their little hazmat suits, getting ready to clean up monster guts, which, personally speaking, I know it probably sounds like a very labor-inducing job, but I think it'd be pretty cool. I mean, granted, our world doesn't have much going on with it, but, you know, why not? That'd be dope. So right when they get there, we see Kafka and Ichikawa are obviously paired together, and they get intestine duty, to which Kafka notably is angry. Ichikawa doesn't know the grueling nature of intestines, I guess you could say, so he kind of just shrugs it off in a way. But Kafka gets ready, set, and just heads straight into it. Ichikawa then notices how bad it is. When it gets to about lunchtime, they kind of have a little back and forth about not wanting to eat. But like a good mentor, Kafka throws Ichikawa a nutritional drink and tells him, "I know you've probably lost your appetite because the smell is unbearable, but do yourself a favor and drink this. You're going to need it." He also hands Ichikawa some nose plugs, and he says, "I know the smell is going to get to you. If you don't wear these, the smell is going to linger with you, and you're not going to eat for weeks." After that, they have a little bit of another time skip. You know, this is the first chapter, and we're just kind of getting the day-to-day life of our main protagonists. So, after they give each other the nose plugs, they go back to work, and then we get a skip to the end of the day, where Kafka's buddies are telling him they're going home. And we get a kind of sense that Kafka is the leader of the group, really. Or at least this little section that he's in charge of, because he tells his fellas, "Y'all did a good job. I'll see y'all later. Hope you have a good one." And this is the part that kind of really made me start to like Ichikawa, where instead of being like just leaving like all the rest, like, "I'm gonna give up. This place is just droll. This place is terrible to me. I don't want to do this my entire life." Ichikawa actually walks up to Kafka while Kafka is kind of reflecting on the day, and he says, "Hey, sir." Kafka, obviously being caught off guard, says, "Oh, Ichikawa, nice job today, dude." And Ichikawa kind of stops him and has a very heart-to-heart and very serious moment with him and says, "I want to thank you for today. It's because of you that I made it through this very tough first day." And that actually catches Kafka off guard. Like, notably so. You see this edgy teen come up at the beginning of the day, and you expect him not to even last the day. And at the end of that just disgusting workday, he comes up to you and he tells you, "Thank you." That's like very commemorable. That's very cool. I like that a lot. I think that's really cool. And then he says, "I'll see you around. I'll see you tomorrow." But before he walks away, he stops himself and says, "One more thing." That's a little Jackie Chan reference. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm showing my age. So, Ichikawa ends up stopping himself, and they have another little heart-to-heart, and he talks about how, because of the declining birth rate in Japan, they are raising the age to start helping out with the kaiju to the age of 33. And how Kafka actually looked pretty torn up when Ichikawa brought up the fact that he looks as though he gave up. But then Ichikawa has a tsundere-like moment, and he says, I seriously couldn't care less, so if I got the wrong idea on your quitter lifestyle, I don't really care. See ya." Kafka obviously sees this and notices that it's a tsundere moment, and he says, "Ichikawa, thanks. You're a better guy than I gave you credit for." To which Ichikawa gets even more tsundere-like. But it gets cut short with a kaiju rushing them both. Almost eating Ichikawa, too. But thankfully, Kafka gets in the way, and he tackles Ichikawa. Lightning fast reaction speed. 0 deaths. Notably so, this kaiju is weaker than, obviously, the one we saw prior, because Kafka is able to deal some damage to it by kicking it in the jaw. And then he screams at Ichikawa and tells him to bolt. Just run. Like, don't worry about him. Classic Edward Elric, Ichigo Kurosaki style, yelling for the weaker person to get out of there while, obviously, they don't stand a chance. Clearly, Ichikawa objects, and Kafka just does not care. Like, at all. He does not care. So, Ichikawa does. He bolts. He runs. And Kafka kind of comes to the realization, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm screwed. Oh, no." So Kafka realizes that he's screwed, and the kaiju, or the yuju, as Ichikawa called it, swats at him, flinging him into the air. That's when we obviously have the protag flashback, and we get the protag speech of him being like, I want to join the defense force and destroy all of the kaiju. And they establish a little rivalry with one another. And they say, of course, we'll see which one of us can become the best kaiju killer. And then we cut back to Kafka's fight, to where he gets his leg absolutely crushed by the yuju. He says the most classic anime protagonist thing ever. It wasn't supposed to end up like this. And right before the kaiju itself can chomp down on Kafka's delicious juicy body and gain all that monster gut nutrients from him. Ichikawa comes in for the save and smacks the kaiju with a street sign, actually dealing a good little bit of damage, it seems. And then we get another little flashback of Kafka actually getting his rejection letter from the Defense Force, showing that he did not get accepted. Then we cut back to Ichikawa facing off against the kaiju, and it appears the kaiju is about to eat him. Kafka obviously reaches out like any good anime protagonist would, and they both get saved by the kaiju just exploding into like just massive bullet wounds, bullet holes put in its body. The actual Defense Force shows up. We get Kafka's friend, his little rival friend, and her pet tiger. She has a pet tiger. If that thing doesn't end up talking throughout this review, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I know it'll be cool if it does. I know it'll be stereotypical shonen if it does. But I'm fine with that. That'd be dope. That'd be cool. And naturally, Kafka sees this, and he's disappointed that, you know, his friend has to rescue him instead of the other way around. His friend notices him, and she's just like, ugh, of course I have to save you of all people. She gives him that look. Honestly, though, I don't think it should matter. You know, like, she's got a tiger. She's obviously got a reason to look at him like that. He's more shocked right now that it's his friend saving him, but she's still disappointed that this is how he turned out after the commitment they made. So Kafka and Ichikawa get sent to the hospital. And Ichikawa gives Kafka a compliment. He says, "That was really cool. Thank you for saving me." And that makes me like Ichikawa even more. I don't know. Honestly, he's one of my favorite characters besides Kafka, you know. And Ichikawa tells Kafka that he should join the Defense Force, to which that kind of gets under Kafka's skin, and he kind of says, like, it fills him with determination. There you go. And he says, "I'm going to join the Defense Force." And right as he says that, a kaiju starts to buzz right above him, a little dragon-looking kaiju. And he psychically tells Kafka, "You are the one I've been looking for. I've found you." And then it injects himself into Kafka's mouth, turning him into Kaiju number 8. Honestly, this is one of the coolest drawings I've seen in like a long time in manga. So to see this panel right here, I really like it, you know. And Kafka sees Ichikawa looking at him like that, and he looks at himself in the mirror, and notably so, he has an absolute freak out. An old man sees Kafka. Of course, he didn't see him transform, but he sees the after effect of Kaiju number 8, and he calls the Defense Force, and he's like, there's a Kaiju in here! And then we get the title we finally get the title, like 55 pages in, and the title of the chapter is Kaiju number 8, Episode 1, The Man Who Became a Kaiju. So Ichikawa screams, and he's like, "Let's get out of here, sir." And the chapter ends. My thoughts on that first chapter are, it hooked me. Honestly, the art style is really good. The story's kind of obviously very tropey, but nowadays shonen tends to follow that same formula. But personally speaking, I think it's a series that a lot of people could get into, and I know a lot of people could really like this. On my suggestions, I see the recommended series. I see Spy Family and Kojin X. I don't know what Kojin X is about, but I may start reading it. It's only got 15 chapters. Let me know what you guys thought of this first ever chapter review video. I like doing it. Hopefully I can get another one out to y'all later. If you'd like to support me, I don't have Patreon. I do have Patreon, but I don't use it. If you guys like to support me, I've got Cash App. You know, I don't like plugging anything, but obviously in regards to the last video, I am doing YouTube full time until I can find